Hello and welcome to Asian Pulse. I'm your host, Shannon Permal. Hope y'all are having a fabulous day. If you are a Canadian citizen or permanent resident who is 18 years or older, remember to exercise your right to vote on October 24th. As we're gearing up for Election Day, we understand a lot of people don't feel comfortable to go vote due to COVID-19, which is why over 600,000 people have requested mail-in ballots. If you haven't already voted online or sent your in-mail ballot, unfortunately, it is too late to vote using those methods. However, advanced polling is open right now until Wednesday, October 21st. Polling stations are open from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. If you're not able to make it out to the advanced polling, make sure you go out on Saturday, October 24th to your designated voting station to cast your ballot. With that being said, good luck to all the candidates who are running in the upcoming provincial election. Halloween is just around the corner, and parents are nervous to send their kids trick-or-treating this year. Is it really safe to go door-to-door for trick-or-treating in 2020? To answer these questions, we'll be having Corporal Eleanor Sturko and Corporal Johnny Sadu from Surrey's RCMP detachment in our studio to talk about safety during Halloween. I'll be right back after this. In our studio today, we have Corporal Eleanor Sturko to talk about safety during Halloween. So please take a look.
In our studios, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Corporal L. Sturko. She has been on our sets before, but a lot has happened since the last 7 or 8 months during the pandemic. So she is here to talk about safety in general. So thank you so much for being able to take your time and come. And we are doing social distancing.
Yes.
Life has changed so much since the last time we were sitting on the set here.
It really has, but thanks for having me back. It's always a pleasure to be here and talk with you.
Yes. So let's talk about some safety. And I know you are the Media Relations Officer with Surrey RCMP. And I found, this is my own observation, that when we were under the pandemic, one thing I even said to a friend, I said, you know what? We don't hear very many shootings happening, or drive-by shootings, or gang-related and all that. And now, even last night, I was driving here listening to the news, and last night too, that there is always a shooting, either in Surrey, Vancouver, Langley, or Cloverdale, or Abbotsford, or Richmond, but you name it. So that thing was on hold for a while, but now people feel they can continue to go practice their business or be able to be out and about, and it's so dangerous, especially when the kids are back in school and everybody is still, we all are still under lockdown. So how is your department, and I know you cover quite a huge area, you are dealing with that maybe there may be a, you have to make a media release almost every day.
Well, it's an interesting observation that you made, because it is true that we did see sort of a quieter period and then more of an escalation in violent crime sort of into the fall. And this is my 3rd year working as Media Relations Officer for Surrey RCMP. And over the previous 2 years, we actually saw periods like that as well, where we would see some more violent activity that flared up across the Lower Mainland, and then that would be followed by sort of more inactive periods where there weren't as many violent incidents. But certainly, I would say over September and October that across the Lower Mainland there were more incidents of shootings, many of them related to organized crime and gang activity. Some of them had a nexus to drug trafficking. And I think one of the important things for people to realize is that police are only part of the picture in every jurisdiction. Many of the crimes that we see, particularly violent crime, have a nexus to drug trafficking, which of course has its foundation really in addictions. And where we continue to see a demand for drugs, which is across the Lower Mainland, there will continue possibly to be a persistence in violent crime. So we really need to work together with our partners across the Lower Mainland to reduce the demand for drugs, and hopefully there will also be a reduction that way in violent crime.
And like you are right in saying that police is a small part of prevention or after the fact.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I think that even this summer with a lot of stuff that we saw happening, a lot of voices that came out in the community to talk about different issues, whether it was systemic racism, whether it was police dealing with health crises, with mental health, all these things. I mean, it's come to the forefront, and these are important discussions to have about the role of police in the community. And certainly, public safety is our priority. Dealing with criminal activity is our duty and our priority as well. But a lot of the things that we also deal with do have a nexus to things that are health issues. So, we have to be mindful of that. Police are a very big part of the equation when it comes to safety, and we have to continue to work with the community to have an awareness of some of the foundations of some of the issues we're dealing with, and then also to find ways to lessen the demand for drugs and thereby reduce violent crime in the community.
Wow. And I will just change a little bit, and we'll talk because we are into provincial election. Saturday is the last day, and you must have also noticed that there have been so many candidates, and I have been observing that as well, that these candidates, they get vandalized, and you also have to look into that as well. Especially they are mostly people of color that they are running for. Either they're running for whichever party, it doesn't matter who you're running for, but I see more and more people, kind of a violent swastika and things like that, is that never used to be that. It doesn't matter what party you belong to. People have their rights to stand for whoever they want to, which party they want to support. But do you see more of that? Because you still have to investigate that as well. If there is racism, if there is sexism, if there is that kind of crime that people don't feel safe, even if they put their name out for.
Well, this past weekend there was an incident of vandalism, I should say, in the Guildford riding, where some rocks were thrown through a window of a candidate's office. At this time, we're investigating that as a mischief, and we don't know the motivation behind that, whether or not there's any underlying, nexus to the person's ethnic background or any of that isn't known until we actually find out who did it, because there was no overt symbolism of a hate crime in that circumstance. I know that there have been in other jurisdictions vandalism to signs from a variety of party members from a variety of diverse backgrounds that had things like swastikas, other hate symbols, sexist things written on them. The one thing that is the sort of common factor in all of them is that these are incidents of mischief, people doing property damage to these signs. So that's concerning for us. I think that we have seen in past years that same type of thing happen. We've seen it in whether it was a federal election, civic, municipal. I think there are individuals in the community that do this kind of act, whether it's a form of intimidation or whether it's their view on a certain candidate. It's hard for us to know actually until we find out who's responsible and then get to the bottom of what motivated them. But we are alive to the fact that there are concerns of racist undertones and stuff in the community, and it's something we take very seriously. And it's largely disappointing as well. That's not what Surrey is. That's not our community. We actually have such a diverse, wonderful community that it is disappointing when those type of allegations are made.
And the next thing I was going to ask you about, Halloween is coming. You know how Halloween is. People get so excited, especially Halloween trick-or-treating. Children get so excited. And we are living in this pandemic era. 2020 will go in our history books as if we were all locked down. And what do you predict, or what do you see happening during this Halloween? How is the police preparing for Halloween on the day? And it's a Saturday night too.
I know, right? I think it's a full moon too, so you know what? We actually think it will be a busy Halloween.
Yes.
Halloween is always busy for us. I think that what makes it different this year is, other years were often our biggest concerns are things like street safety with kids, impaired driving, because it's a weekend and there may not be the outlets that people are normally used to, like dance parties at clubs, costume parties at bars, that kind of thing. we're anticipating that there may be an uptick in things like house parties. So we have our COVID-19 compliance and enforcement team, and our community response unit will be out in force along with general duty, and we do anticipate probably getting more than usual amounts of calls for house parties. Even though it is sort of a festive holiday weekend, people are still expected to follow the COVID-19 public health orders that have been issued by our provincial health officer. And we still have our duty and obligation to enforce those public health orders for the betterment of the community to help stop the spread of COVID-19. So that's just something that's added for us this year. We still have concerns, excited kids. There's going to be kids going around in costumes. It's going to be dark. We're getting into that dark
Yes.
time of year again. So just, we're reminding people to be safe out there. Keep your eyes open for kids. If you're a parent and your kid is going to be going out trick-or-treating, consider dressing them in a brightly colored costume. And really this year we just want to emphasize to people to please keep those public health orders in mind. Don't be clustering in large groups. We want to make sure that this continues to be a fun holiday, but also a safe holiday.
On the fireworks and all that.
Oh
as
goodness,
well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, now that you mentioned it, fireworks, we get just inundated with fireworks complaints.
Yes.
In the city of Surrey, you can't shoot off fireworks without a fireworks license issued by the fire department, and also Canadian, there is actually another license, a federal fireworks operator certificate. So you can receive fines. But even beyond getting a fine, we have over the years received a lot of calls where people have blown off their fingers, have been badly burned. I think last year there was an incident where someone shot fireworks into the balcony of an apartment and started a fire.
Yes.
So we're not trying to spoil people's fun because we're people too. We're only human. We love a good time as much as anyone else. But this comes down to safety. We don't want people getting hurt. We don't want fires. We don't want property damage. So, please abide by our city's bylaws. It's illegal to light off fireworks and to sell fireworks in the city of Surrey. So we hope that everyone will please comply with that.
I know Bannaby and all that, they do have that, they don't have that restriction. So, and then Surrey also, I knew that. But you still here and there find people that are
You
still.
do. We you still do, and we get it. People are just trying to have a good time. They may not even be aware of the bylaw. It's
Yes.
or maybe they figure it's not that big of a deal. One of the purposes behind having people that are licensed, so you can still do it if you obtain a license. It's to make sure people know how to use them properly and are doing it safely and have a plan in place, and not simply, as we sometimes see, people walking down the street firing off fireworks. They're not taking the proper safety precautions, and you can lose your fingers and hands, or become
eyesight or something.
Yeah, eyesight, be
Yeah.
badly burned, or fireworks can cause property damage and start fires. So there are safety concerns behind the need to regulate the use of fireworks in Surrey.
And the other thing is a big concern is also relating to this Halloween, about the motorist, about the safety, because it gets darker earlier now. And November 1st, the time gonna be changing. We're gonna be going 1 hour back behind. So about 4 o'clock it's gonna be dark. So what would you want to say to the motorist or the people about the weather conditions? Start to rain now, it's getting darker now. Some people wear black. So I think it's very, very important for the motorists. And we all are pedestrians, and we all are motorists as well. We drive, we walk on the sidewalks too. What would you like to say about motorist or traffic safety?
Yeah, the responsibility for safety on the road falls on every road user, whether you're a person in a car, whether you're on a bicycle, whether you're walking, rollerblading, what have you. Everybody has a responsibility to keep the road safe. It's a partnership that we have with one another to protect each other.
Yeah.
It's getting darker. That makes it harder for people to see. And we're in that kind of misty, weird time of year where you don't even know if it's raining, but there's water seemingly everywhere.
Or foggy.
And foggy as
Yeah.
well, exactly. And so it makes it visibility is less for vehicles, and the roadway can be slick. So we would encourage drivers to keep an eye out, drive a little bit slower, drive relative to the conditions. So if we're experiencing bad conditions, you may have to slow down a bit, leave more space between vehicles, be conscious that there may be pedestrians in the roadway that are more difficult to see. And if you're a pedestrian or a cyclist, really encouraging people to go in the appropriate either bike lane or sidewalk where designated, travel in well-lit areas, wear brightly colored clothing. You should have a helmet, a light, reflectors, and even for a pedestrian, there's a lot of great products out there now that are very, very reflective, even shoes, different kinds of things that can light up. Just anything you can do to help increase your visibility. Most of us are sort of guilty of having those muted, dark colors, looking good in black, that kind of thing, nice black umbrella, looking sharp, but that really does make it difficult for traffic to see you. And, sometimes the way that our weather is here, it can be very difficult to be seen. And, just be extra cautious at this time of year. If you're going to cross the street and you're waiting for traffic, it's always a good idea to ensure that the traffic has come to a complete stop before stepping off, and even make eye contact with those drivers to make sure that they actually do see you.
I was going to say that also the school is back in session now, and also it's always a good time to remind the motorists that there are speed limit that you do have to follow during the school hours.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, we have our school zones, and I think we often focus on what is the speed limit, and whether it's a 30 or a 50 or an 80 or a 100. It's important to remember that we also have to drive relative to the conditions. Just because the speed limit is posted at 80 or 100, if we're experiencing bad frosted conditions, you may have to slow down under the speed limit. When you're experiencing very dense traffic situations or conditions, or it's raining very hard, make an assessment. If it's easy to slow down a bit, but you can't always take it back when you've gone a little bit too fast and you end up in a collision. So these are things that we can do that will help reduce our chance of being in a collision. It's not always about looking for the posted limit and going exactly as fast as you can according to that. It's about assessing the conditions of the road at the time when you're making that journey.
And I was going to ask you about homelessness, and there are so many cases that we hear in the news. Actually, they say people die more so, or in BC, more people died from overdose than the pandemic itself. And because that has been an ongoing issue, either you live in Vancouver downtown or anywhere else. But instead of people there are more and more this drug use is happening within the four walls of the house. And they are saying the drugs that they are getting, whether it's marijuana or cocaine, whatever, they are tinted drugs. They are not very clean drug to be using. What would you want to say to those? There are a lot more people. We find out, you make statements all the time about this drug, young people using the drugs, and now, and they don't call anybody, or they don't do it in front of others, so that if they need help.
It's interesting, that you brought up about, drug use, homelessness, or versus drug use with individuals who live in the community. And I think that one of the misconceptions is that we actually these overdoses are happening with homeless. Yeah. So you bring up a good point, because a drug overdose can happen to anyone who's using drugs. And the reality is that it's not only our most vulnerable on the street, but it's also in our suburbs. It's in our affluent neighborhoods. Addiction, unfortunately, has reached every corner of our community. And in fact, we have a lot of people that overdose in homes because they're alone. Yes. And they're using drugs. We are alive to the fact that addiction has affected our community, and there's also those who choose to use illicit drugs recreationally as well. Yep. And that comes back to reducing that demand for drugs, working with agencies in the community to help reduce those demands. However, this past Saturday, early in the morning, we actually attended a call where it was believed to be a gas leak.
Yes.
And the reason why they thought it was a gas leak is that someone had come upon within a house in Fraser Heights here. 5 people who were all unresponsive, and they thought, oh my gosh, this must be, because of the number of people, they thought it must be a gas leak. So they called first responders, police, fire, ambulance, all attended, and on further investigation they found that it actually was drug overdoses, 5 people at once. They had to be revived using quite a lot of Narcan. So naloxone is an anti-opioid that can help reverse the effects on your body of taking opioids. So we're not sure what these individuals took because they weren't actually that forthcoming with the information. That's unfortunate for us because if they would tell us precisely what they took, we would be able to pass that on to the community.
Yeah.
The thing is that we really want people to understand that our priority in situations like that is the safety of those people. Whether there's some other secondary concern going on, another police-related issue, that's going to be secondary to making sure people's lives are not at risk and that they're saved. So please don't hesitate to call. We're giving people in the community also the advice that if you do use drugs, we know that people use drugs, addiction is a reality. We want you to try not to use alone, so that if you do run into trouble, there's someone there who can call for help for you. You can get access to naloxone through the pharmacy.
And they are free too.
They're free. You can get it, and so please bring that into your home with you. Or if you don't have a home, if you're on the street, get access to that in any way that you can. And also please don't hesitate to call. I think people often see police maybe as being, at odds with people with addictions, but that's not true. We are at odds with the criminality behind taking advantage of people with addictions, criminal elements that seek to profit off of the sickness of other people. But the reality is that we don't want people to die from an overdose. So we're bringing this information to the community because we want you to be safe. So please, I hope that this message gets to those in the community. Don't forget, it's not just our most vulnerable on the street. Addictions reaches every corner of our community.
As well as mental health as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The last question, and so how are you, or how is your detachment dealing with in the news that we're going to be replaced by Surrey Police Department and all that? Do you have any anxiety? Do you talk about it that maybe very soon, or maybe in a year or two, that you might have to relocate or anything on that? I know, and I'm asking you because this is where the talk is all about.
Yeah. Well, of course we talk about it. Of course, it's just like it's topical in the community. Of course, it affects every member of the RCMP and every city employee that we work with. So, of course, for us, there's anxiety, and we know no more than what the community knows at this point. So, for us, the important part is that we really don't have a role at the RCMP in making that decision, what goes forward. It's sort of like every person choosing between, Bell and TELUS what service they want, or Rogers, and, so those companies don't necessarily have a role in the decision that you are making individually. So the city has made a decision that they want to move forward with a city police force, and our job as it stands at this time is that we're contracted to continue providing a police service. So we're going to continue to move forward and do so as long as we're the contracted police service. And as stuff is evolving and changing with the transition process, our leadership in Surrey RCMP is bringing us as much information as they can and helping us to make decisions for ourselves going forward. So they'll be asking us what our intention will be, whether we'll stay with the RCMP, and when we do choose that, where is it that we want to go and what will we be doing. But for me, I haven't received any information that my job is changing. I plan on staying with Surrey RCMP as long as it exists, and that I actually I have a plan to keep extending in media relations too, because I enjoy this work. So there's a level of uncertainty, I would say, but at the same time, my day-to-day duties have not changed, and
Actually, matter of fact, you're being given more responsibility.
Yes, I'm right now.
Sergeant.
I'm acting as the sergeant right now. So I enjoy this work. I enjoy working in Surrey. I will be disappointed, of course, on a personal level, if it if we are
That does
replaced.
happen,
Yeah, that's really disappointing because I love working here. I chose to come here. I applied specifically to come to Surrey because I liked the community. I liked the challenging work that we have here. And I also thought that it would be a great opportunity to bring information to the public. I think one of the things that's really interesting about my job is that I have this chance to let the public see what we do. And I wanted to keep doing
And
that.
I'm looking at the
Oh,
clock.
sorry.
No. That's totally fine. We can be sitting here and talking for a long time.
You're just so easy to talk to.
Yes, I know. And also, I was going to say that there is another person in your
Yes.
position, Joni Sidhu.
Yeah, Corporal
And
Joni Sidhu.
Corporal Joni, and she was supposed to come today, but just because the shooting last night, she has to give media clips. But next week or next time, we're going to have both of them in our studios to talk about. There's so much to talk about when it comes to safety. Our safety, children's safety, community safety, everybody. And these are the people, the best people to talk to. And also, don't forget to go out and vote. Saturday is the last day of voting. Exercise your right and go out and vote. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure. Thanks. We'll see you again for sure.
Yes.
We ran out of time for today. Hope you all enjoyed the show as much as I do bringing it to you. If you have any comments, suggestions, or story ideas, please email us at asianpulse@gmail.com or call us at the number that is in our credits. Today's parting quote for the day is from the Dalai Lama, who says, "Naturally, global peace cannot occur all at once. Since conditions around the world vary, its spread will have to be incremental. But there is no reason why it cannot begin in one region and then gradually from one continent to another." If you have missed today's show, you can always watch it again on Thursdays at 8:30 p.m. and Saturdays at 5:30 p.m. Goodbye for now, take good care of yourself, and until we meet again, I'm your host, Shannon Permal.